Our next presenter is going to be Marcin Sikorski, who's going to be presenting Testing Death, How IoT and AI Will Shape Testers' Job. Ooh, very interesting. Marcin is the most popular Polish expert on Internet of Things. He is a member of the Platforma Przemysłu Przyszłości, Poland-Hong Kong Business Association, and SJSI. He is the co-author of the report IoT in the Polish Economy, advisor to the CPK, and author of the book Real IT World, Internet of Things. He is a public speaker, writer, and mentor. He is in the IT industry since 2013, consumer IoT, automotive, and nuclear reactors, within which he helps to implement good practices regarding quality, business, and testing related to digital transformation. Please welcome Marcin.
Hello guys, it's nice to be here. I'm happy to be on this event, and I'm happy and glad I can show you today, I hope, an inspiring speech when it comes to testing death and how this will shape us as our testers and our future jobs. So, well, without further ado, I hope we can start and dive deep into this topic. Testing death. How will you engage this conversation as a tester? Today, I want to speak with you about this, about three elements: the ethics, the IoT, and the future. Those three elements are quite important when it comes to, well, the IT industry, when it comes to the futuristic technology that you will see today, and when it comes to our jobs, because I truly believe that the next step when it comes to testing is to better understand not the technological aspect by itself, which is important, by the way, but rather the fact that the ethics will be quite important when we will add the aspect of AI. But let's start with the basics. Let's start with a story. On this page, you see Mr. Roman. Mr. Roman that was born in Russia, and he was friends with this lady. He was friends for quite some time. But the problem with that was the fact he was living in Russia. And as you can imagine, in Russia, well, you might have many enemies. And sadly, this person died. Sadly, he was in an accident. Sadly, he is no longer with us. But his friend decided to do something very drastic to resurrect him. As you can imagine, she was quite skilled an engineer. So what she did was she took every single information on the internet when it comes to him, from the social media, when it comes to SMS, when it comes to emails and stuff like that. She put it in a simple machine learning / neurology system. And after a few years, she was able to create a chatbot that was behaving as him. And one day she started conversation with this chatbot. She asked, "How are you there?" And he replies, "I'm okay, a little down. I hope you aren't doing anything interesting without me. A lot is happening, life is going on, but we miss you. I miss you too. I guess this is what we call love." Now, what was interesting in this was the fact that this AI was behaving as him. So he was as joking as a real person. He understood the context. She could ask him many different questions from the past, and he understood it, or at least behaved in this way. And you might think this was a small project, an interesting project, but nothing more than that. But a few months ago, Microsoft was granted a patent for something very similar. A device that looks like this. A device that has two purposes. On the one side, Microsoft wants to create an AI that will behave as your personal, let's say, assistant, like a Siri, but more like you. Imagine you copy yourself and create digital copy of yourself, and this is what they want to, well, have and reach. They want to do this with three things. First of all, access social data. So in the background, they signed contracts with many different companies like Facebook and Google, so they can take any information there is on you on the internet. Then to create a personality index, like from 1 to 10. And more like you, or maybe there was some mistakes. Maybe it behaves very differently. They want to ask your friends to rank you, like if this chatbot is behaving like you. And finally, they want to train a lot this chatbot. Now, on the one side, they want to create your personal assistant like Siri, but as I said, more like you. They want to, well, be on this market and do something very drastic. But at the same time, they want to go in the funeral market. They want to resurrect you from your death. Basically, they want to sell a option in which you can ask them to resurrect your family member, your father, your mother, your children, or anyone you lost, and say final goodbye, or speak with them, or do something, like imagine they are still alive and maybe have one final conversation. For some of us, this is quite drastic, but at the same time, they want to do something very, very different with AI. Now, you might think this is something of the future. This is for the next 20, 50 years. But think right now how many AI you have. You have Siri, you have Google Assistant, you have, Will and many other assistants. You might ask any question you wish. You might use AI voices that, behave and imitate your voices to the point you are no longer able to distinguish this between human person and, fake machine person. So we have a huge problem with that. Then we have a page like this. This person does not exist. Imagine this person is not living. This person was created with AI, and you can even track how it was generated, how many data sources you used. So we have pages like this, so you can use and create human beings from scratch. We have an AI that is able to read documentation and create it in a simple English manner. So we as human beings can read it more easily, understand it more easily, and a lot of text is boiled down to a few sentences. Besides that, we have, of course, AI that you can put a photo, and after that, the photo is alive. So this is also a thing that we can use right now. And more stuff is being added each and every day. And for some of us, AI is still something like, wishy-washy buzzword. It might happen in the future. You're saying AI, but you really mean machine learning. The real AI is, we don't even have AI right now because Google is using data sources. So this is not on real AI and stuff like this. Yeah, but not really. We have this. There's many cases of, simple AI, but nevertheless, AI, which we didn't understand. The creators didn't understand how it worked because it was a black box. Now, we have this, and put on that even more. Put on that the Internet of Things, the devices that are gathering a lot of data about you from many different places, from autonomous cars, from houses, from the streets. A lot of data is quite a heavy amount of data is right now being gathered about you. Besides that, we have a blockchain, and not in the cryptocurrency manner, which is the most popular one, but the blockchain like in the clothes, in the food industry, in the health industry. Did you know that you can right now buy a cloth in which you have a small button, and if you put your phone near that button, it has an NFC inside, so you can open an application, the dedicated application, in which you can see when exactly this product was created, who was involved in this, what was done before and after each and every step when it comes to this. Besides that, we have even more, like the smart clothes. Not only the IoT industry is booming right now, but the health industry is even more booming, in which we have a clothes that can understand what you're doing, can help you in a way, can show you some sort of data if you're sick, if there's a time in which you should take your prescribed medicine and stuff like this. Besides that, we have also futuristic devices like this bandana that you can put on your head that can track your sleeping manner. It can track how you're sleeping. It can track what is happening right now. What do you have, bad dreams or good dreams? It uses a system of waves in which if you are having a very bad dream, you can change it in a way so you can calm down and sleep better, or you can calm down and have some sort of better dreams and stuff like this. And even besides that, we have Neuralink. Neuralink that, of course, comes from Mr. Elon Musk. That is, the most popular right now company when it comes to neurology and psychology and AI, where he said that you can put or transplant a small device in your brain so you can learn language in a fast manner, or you can learn any skill you wish. Or if you look at the left side, we'll see Facebook. Facebook, which is also quite heavily right now doing a lot of stuff when it comes to AI, that they were able to track your brain waves and in a manner make it possible with 80 to 90% possibility to read what you are thinking, and the person that is disabled for the whole life was able to speak. And this is quite heavy and big, and as you can see, this is no longer a manner of could or maybe should, or maybe this might happen in the future. This is happening right now. And I'm showing this to you to inspire you and to talk about ethics because, well, the technology is cool and sexy and we like it, but the ethics is quite important when it comes to how we will, well, create this and how will we as a quality engineers, as a testers, as a people who are responsible for the quality, test those devices. Make sure those devices are working correctly and the AI is not doing something, well, scary or maybe something that is not supposed to do. And for some of us, ethics is boring because look at this. We have philosophy, and philosophy divides into logic, divides in metaphysics, divides into history of philosophy. Then we have the ethics. The ethics divides itself into many different ways, like semantic theories or maybe justification theories. This is quite boring, to be honest. Then we have something interesting, the descriptive ethics. What do people think is right? Think about it. What do you think is right now? Stick with that because this will be important in the next few slides. But descriptive ethics, what do we think people think is right? Then we have, of course, normative ethics. How should people act? What is good? What is bad? If the same principles are always to apply, or maybe we can have some sort of, maybe we can make some sort of tree in which case A, case B, case C, and so on. Then we have something more suited towards us, the applied ethics. And you know it, this is the best business ethics, what to do when we have official meetings. There is professional ethics, what is okay in the job. There is bioethics, social ethics, and stuff like this. And finally, we have something called ethics of AI, which divides in the machine ethics, how should machines behave. And finally, we come to the conclusion, the descriptive machine ethics. What do people think about how should machines behave? So we have two different fields. What do people think is right? How machines should behave, and then we add this together. So we have descriptive machine ethics. What do people think about how should machines behave? And then I think that's easy. Well, this is nothing difficult. We should answer the questions quite easily and fast. So, well, let's move on, right? Not so easily and not so fast. Do you know what is the doctrine of double effect? The doctrine of double effect is the logical way in which the doctors are not afraid to cure you. The doctrine of double effects tells you you want to do something good, and the result of something good and bad, the probability is the same. And if you could, when you are doing something bad, you would do something good always, then you have the doctrine of double effect. In other words, if you are sick, and the doctors think they know what is happening right now, but they give you a different drug they are supposed to give you, and you die, and they can prove they wanted to do something good. They didn't have intention of doing something bad, and if they could, they would do something good. Not to mention that the good and bad probability of treating you were the same, they would do it. This is the doctrine of double effect, and this is why the doctors don't go to the court every single time they mess up something. And the same thing, the doctrine of double effect is used quite often when it comes to AI, or at least we think is using. Because just a few questions to inspire you and to think about it. Like, what is the most trivial thing to happen if tech was adopted by everyone on the planet? I don't know if you're doing right now website testing, or maybe mobile testing, maybe database testing, or any other product. Imagine everyone on the market were using your technology right now. What would happen? And if you added that, the AI, would it be even better or worse? Would it be, well, better for everyone because AI would help solve some problems, or would it be even worse? Then, is 90% success of, well, AI thinking a good model or not? Well, if you are thinking 90%, that's quite a lot. When it comes to price models, this is good, right? 90% of probability, great. 90% when it comes to treating patient, not so good if you can be in the 10%. So the question is how specific and smart the AI can be. And can we in any way, help it to be more specific, or maybe should we leave it alone? Then we can and should ask a question, can it see what I see? Look at the screen on the right. There was a famous model that had very high probability to well distinguish the cat and the car. But we use testing model to see, as we are testing right now, the users when it comes to web, where the machine was looking at the picture to, well, think if it's a cat or not. And on the picture on the left, you can see, well, the heat map shows you exactly it was looking at the eyes and the mouth. So yeah, the model was thinking correctly. On the right side, we have a problem because the car was well with the 90% well shown correctly, but the model didn't look at the car by itself. It looked at the outside. It looked at the road. It looked at the houses besides the car. It looked at everything besides the car. So the model was okay in a way, it could distinguish the car, but it was bad in a manner that it didn't see what we saw. Then one last question, can it cheat? Like, imagine you have an AI and the AI is very friendly, it helps you in any way, it does and can solve any problem you have, but can it cheat you? Can it, well, be so smart, so fast that it can show you something that you wish to see, but at the same time do something in the background? Can it do it in this manner? Of course, many sci-fi creators were using this model, and when it comes to AI, we always think in this simple manners. Can it cheat and the Terminator machines will kill us? But I'm asking you right now with the simple things like treating patients or making sure that we can see something in the future. Can this model and can this AI be our friendly AI or maybe not? And the ethics, if you think from this perspective, are quite important. And I'm just saying to you about technology by itself, but let's move this aside for a minute and let's think how we as human beings think. Look at this picture. I bet you know it's a famous trolley problem from 1976, which was created by Miss Thompson. And the trolley problem goes like this. You have a trolley, it's moving forward, and you have to decide if it goes left or right. If it goes left, it will kill 5 people. If it goes right, it will go and kill 1 person. You cannot stop it. You cannot do anything with that. You have to decide left or right. And believe me, for the last half of the century, we didn't find the correct solution because there's always one person that will say, I think in a different manner. I believe something other is better. Go back to what I said, the descriptive machine ethics. What we think is right, what machines should think is right. We, as a human beings, have to in some way tell them what is correct and what is wrong. And can you even do it if for the last half of century we couldn't solve this simple solution? And of course, after this presentation, you might go to the internet, and if you Google the trolley problem, you will have quite a lot of fun time because you can even find the hedonist trolley problem. The track is heading towards B, and if you move the lever, it will switch to A, but it won't do the totally suk loop da loop loop, which is funny, but the problem is still quite serious. And to prove you even more this is serious, I want to show you something called the moral machine. It was famous a few years ago, but still the answers, the information we gathered is quite important for us as testers, us as a people who are working with tech, us as a person or people who will work with AI in any way. Basically, moral machine was a simple terms of 10 questions where you had to decide left or right, which picture you think should the self-driving car do? What is correct? What is okay? For example, in this picture, you see 5 people in a car. If they go straight ahead, they will kill 5 people. If they go left, they will die. And the questions get more and more intense. And well, you had to simple answer, left or right, what you think is morally good. And all of a sudden, the answers that we received were quite spectacular and quite, well, surprising. First of all, we gathered like 300 million, I think, answers. So this is why it's called a massive online chart in which we have a quite good understanding how people think from different parts of the world with a different age and different religion and stuff like that, even different political view. So that's good for us. And also, when you read the summary, you will see, well, quite interesting solutions like species preferences. We tend to save human life rather than pets. We prefer to save younger people rather than old. We uphold the law. So when the person is doing what is the law correctly, we will save it. And if, for example, person is crossing the road, well, we tend or prefer to kill that person. And avoiding the intervention is also quite important because we are in the middle. So it means if there is a chance and possibility that we can do nothing and machine should think by itself, well, the machine should decide who to kill or decide what to do. And you might think, well, we have the data, so let's put the data in the machine and boom, problem is solved. We did all we should do. Case is closed. Once again, not so easily and not so fast. If we, for example, divide the autonomous machine AI cars into 4 different sections. In the first one, you have a human person. On the second one, you have a person with the AI helping you from time to time. In the third part, we have machine that is smart and doing everything but human can say from time to time it. And in the final part, you have the machine that is thinking only by itself. You will be surprised that people will not blame if something bad happened in the first case, because human beings, well, mistakes happen. We will not blame the machines because, well, machine is very smart. We will not even blame the human person with the AI autopilot that could help him. But we will blame the third case, when the machine was doing 99% of the calculations, of thinking, of doing stuff. But the final few sections and final few seconds when there could be an accident and the human person should behave or act and, well, he didn't have time and let's say he died with this car, we will blame the company, we'll blame the machines, we'll blame everyone. Or at least this is what the people who tend to attain this experiment told us. So look how dividing it is. We say something, we do something differently, we at the end blame someone else. This is quite scary because if you add this together, we'll have a very, very scary picture. Some people say it's, for example, too simple options. You shouldn't say if we should go left or we should go right. It's too simple. Life is not as simple, so we shouldn't do it this way. We say that it's extremely rare. This case that, let's say, 5 people will be at the crossroad and you have to kill them. This will happen extremely rare, so we shouldn't do it right now. Some also say it's not feasible because, well, how should we do it? Life is not as simple in terms of go left, go right. You could not kill 5 people, but you make them handicapped or stuff like that. So it's not feasible to do it right now in a real life. Some also say it's too early to talk about it. Let's move it later. Let's put it to a later talk. It's not good to do it right now. Ethics, yeah, that's cool. Not as sexy. Let's put it for the later. This is too early to talk. And finally, some say people's judgment are biased, which means that, for example, if you are answering the questions right now in your home, you will answer differently than if you were a person in this car and you had a few seconds to decide who lives and who dies. And finally, this will scare people away. If I in this event tell you about the AI and the ethics and how you as a tester should think about it, you will be scared away because it's not a good time, or maybe we should do it and move it for a later. But guys, keep in mind, rules are sticky. If we as a testers or in a meetings like this will not focus on this problem or how AI should behave, how should we test it, how should we think about ethics, rules are sticky. And once they are applied, people will tend to believe this is the correct way. This was always the correct way, so let's do it this way and let's not think about different way or different solution. And this is the worst that could happen. Now, I was talking a lot about different fields, different possibilities, different stuff. But you as a tester, as always, want a, solution. What should I do when it comes to my job right now? So if you could remember one slide, please keep in mind this, print screen it, or at least look at this carefully because this will be applied for your job. Look, it doesn't matter if you are a mobile tester. It doesn't matter if you are doing right now IoT, databases, website, doesn't matter. The things that are here will and can be applied to a project right now. First of all, go to the Ethics Center. The Ethics Center, which tries to answer those questions. What's the purpose? Why do we do what we do? The principles, how do we achieve our purpose and attain our desire? And the values, what do we desire and care for and defend? Those 3 questions are quite important because it will make it possible for you to look from different perspectives at your product. Also, there's a final question, functions. What will happen if we bring ethics into our tools and objects? Think about it. You're focusing on the technological aspect, you're focusing on how it looks, but do you think about the ethical aspect of this, your product? I'm not saying how it will be looking when it comes to UI. I'm not saying about security, that's cool and dandy. I'm talking about ethics, how well the users will act with our applications, how they will behave, do they trust us, what will happen if we add AI in the future, and we will add AI in the future because, well, as with IoT, few years ago, no one believed it will be a standard. Right now, most companies in some way are trying to create IoT products or at least implement it in any way. So the ethics center, the triangle is the first thing. The second, the data ethics canvas. Go to the OD when you can find the data ethics canvas where there's like 50 specific questions to ask yourself. What we are doing, how we are doing, do we even understand it? Can we do it in an ethical way? What the ethical even think? Should we do it right now? Is it the right moment for us? And so on and so on. So if you want to apply a specific question, or if you are stuck with your job right now when it comes to testing, use this data ethics canvas because it will make your eyes wide. It will open your eyes to a different approach, different areas. And believe me, even if you have a very small project, thinking from the perspective of the ethics is quite important for your final user. And if you have time and want to use the best of the best of the best right now, go and find something called Quality and Testing of AI, which was created in September of 2021. And it was created by the Dutch industry of testers, which they took every single information when it comes to ethics, when it comes to AI, and they created the white paper. The white paper you all see right here. Some of those examples I've used even in this presentation. They ask a lot of questions when it comes to testing the AI, thinking about ethics, thinking what might happen, thinking how this impact your final user, thinking how this impact you as a tester, because you, few years ago, didn't think about your job, day-to-day job. You thought about testing and that's it. Then you added quality to this, the quality engineering. Then we added graphic because we were using UI. We added law because we started to talk with the lawyers how these devices can impact final user. We started to talk with the security guys. So why not start talking about ethics? This is something we should all think about. And to leave you with like one last final thought or sentence to keep in mind, the trust is hard to define, but we do know when it's lost. So maybe your users are not as tech savvy. Maybe they are not as familiar when it comes to technology as you are. Maybe they are not as good with it. But keep in mind, the trust for them is very important. This is what makes them buy your products. Not the features, not the high quality, not the security. Yeah, those elements are also good. But all of those elements boils down to one thing, the trust. And trust is very hard to define. How do you define trust as a new person who buys the device for the first time? And how do you define trust when you are, well, a person who's buying the same family of devices for the past few years? Is it the same trust? Can we use the same sentence? How should we look at it in the first place? This is what I think is quite important. And this is our job. Our job as a testers to start asking those questions, because otherwise, if we leave it as it is, we might be surprised what the future might bring. And I hope the future will be rather bright and not as gloomy as you can see in this picture. Besides that, one last word and last sentence. I hope you got inspired by this presentation. I hope you have a lot of questions, or at least you want to apply ethics to your day-to-day job. But if you have any questions that you want to ask or contact me, please feel free to contact me via the email contact@smartrzeczy.pl, or you can contact me right now or in any other way. Also, one last thing, you can buy my second book, Oszukani przez Smart, in which I will answer a lot of questions when it comes why people tend to believe they are, in some ways, they don't believe or trust the devices, the IoT, the AI, and other aspects of the technology, which should be for them and in some way it didn't create this market, or at least they feel cheated in some way. So this book will answer your question. And without further ado, thank you for your time, and I'm open to any questions that we will have right now.
All righty, thank you. Thank you for that very fascinating presentation. Yes, indeed, AI is a very, very tricky subject. In some cases, it's still, quote unquote, still dumb, but in other certain cases, it is still very dangerous. And so, as we continue to evolve with this AI, it's going to be a tricky subject. We're going to have to be asking these difficult questions: what exactly to do with this insecurity, and so on. So, once again, thank you for that very interesting presentation. And now let's try to get some question and answers. So, we saw we had a couple of questions here. So let's start off with the question: where do the Asimov's 3 laws of robotics fit in?
The problem with laws of robotics is the fact that it was created many, many years ago, and it's no longer easily applied. And to be honest, all of us know the 3 laws: that the machine should listen to person, the machine shouldn't hurt your creator, and so on. But to be honest, there were 4 laws, to be honest. So this is a job for you if you want to even dive deeper into this aspect. But the problem is that this is the rules that were created many, many years ago. And I'm not saying those rules are bad, but they are not specific enough. And the technology moved so quickly and so rapidly and so fast that this is why I'm asking you today, what should we do as a testers? How should we look at this problem? Because I believe that the topic is quite open, and if we add, developers, testers, quality engineers, managers, and other people who are creating right now this futuristic technology, the blockchain technology, the IoT, and stuff like that, this will make the impact, and this will change this drastically. And yeah, what I showed you with this Dutch report, I think at the moment is the best 70 pages you could read, and it will have all of the possible or many possible situations in which you as a tester might be, it might happen to you. So I think those rules are quite important, but we should update them to 21st century.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Another question: what is the greatest achievement in the area of AI in the last year?
Oh
The last
my!
years?
I think when it comes to AI, what is every single aspect of our day-to-day job is in some way powered by AI. Even if we think about small stuff like how our smartphones are working, this is a good example. What is happening in the background and you don't see it, but you feel your smartphone is smart. For example, Google has this way of working in which they ask very simple, small question. Like, for example, if you type SMS someone on the WhatsApp and you type star, should there be Star Trek or Star Wars? What should be the next suggestion for you? And you might think, oh, my keyboard is smart, but it's not smart by itself. What is happening right now? They ask those very simple questions. They send those questions to millions of users around the world. Of course, everything is anonymous, so they don't know who you are. They only check this simple question, and they see after Star what happens, or Star Trek or Star Wars. After they have a lot of those answers, they get it back and see if the question was stupid. Maybe we should leave it alone. Or maybe the answers told us 95% want to see Star Wars, so use it as a suggestion. After they gather a lot of these simple answers and simple questions, they update the logic behind your keyboard. This is why you have so many different updates of your applications. And boom, all of a sudden, your keyboard is very smart. Once again, it's not smart by itself, but it's a very hard work of many, many people, developers and AI specialists all around the world. So your life is easier. And I think this is the biggest achievement. If we can use the technology in a seamless way, and at the same time we believe our technology makes our life easier, this is where AI is helping us. This is the correct way of using AI, and this is how well we as human beings will be very glad that we can use AI. So yeah, My answer is that the big companies are doing cool stuff in the background and well make our life way easier than we could imagine in the past.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Another question. There are expert systems that help doctors in suggesting a diagnosis. Could those be incorporated into a robo-doc?
Yeah, this is the question I believe in this year's quite heavily was asked when it came to the Facebook and their work. But basically, to boil it down to a simple answer, what we want to do is make sure that the human patient is not afraid of the doctor. So what should happen is the fact that we should have AI that can gather a lot of data from all around the world, because let's face it, if we can have information about how you treated 50 million users or patients around the world, or 500 millions, that would be way better than just 50. And it should suggest to the doctor, look, with 95%, I think the patient has this disease. With 80%, I think this is my suggestion. This is why I think this way. But the final answer and to apply the medicine for you, the doctor that you are used to ask and see, and this is your doctor for the past 10 years, he will decide. So yeah, this is the approach, at least that futuristic or technologists I think should be the best. The technology should help us analyze millions of data around the world, but the final solution should be, as always, in the hands of human beings. And this, in some way, of course, should be done in a way so the patient feels that it was added by the human being. So this is what I think might happen in the future, or at least should at the very beginning, because as I said, 90% of the disease is not 100%. So should we leave it until we have 100% certainty, or maybe not? So yeah, it's a very grayish area, but we are going, I think, in the correct manner.
Okay, thank you for that answer. And I believe we have one more question. As ethics change with time, how can you really apply this to AI?
Yeah, this is also the question. What if we have the great AI that helps us in some way, but 1 week later the way of thinking changed drastically because something happened? The COVID is the greatest example. The Amazon AI was like crazy after the COVID was introduced because the behavior of the users changed so drastically. The suggestion of many testers around the world is the fact that in some way, that's why we as a testers have to have a lot of knowledge. The automation testing will be important because if we think about our job, we will not understand what happens inside. It's going to be a black box, right? But we will understand the final result. So it will boil down to, well, autonomous testing. What at the beginning should we have, what we have at the ending, and is it correct or not? And as you saw, the testing approach will not change as drastically because the heat mapping testing you can do right now, right? So the thing that will change will be only the environment in which you will be working, and the fact that you will have to understand how this might be applied to a final user. It will be a very heavy black box in which you have no idea what is happening inside, but you can do and know what happens at the beginning, what was the suggestion, what may happen, and what happened at the end. And of course, at some point, we will have to use the data analysts or AI analyst. And I think this will be the also big impact on the IT industry. Those people right now are very heavily needed around the world, and those people know that thing. So in the future, even if you have a small company, in some way, once you will use AI, it will be necessity to use data analysts and AI analysts. So we will work not only with developers, managers, graphic designers, and lawyers, but also with those people. And I think our cooperation with them, plus our testing scripts and stuff like that, and our eagerness to understand those, let's face it, quite difficult at the beginning technology, will help to make the world a better place, or at least make sure that our products are in a way well, secured, because keep in mind, we are the gatekeepers of security, of the quality rather, and the final products. We are the people who make sure that we give green light, or we give yellow light, or we give red lights. So yeah, I think this might happen in the future.